Hey everyone, welcome. So today I was thinking, why don't I give it a challenge and try and turn $1,000 using aggressive trade setups to something around about 2K, 3K and see what I can do. Now I'm going to be trading specifically cryptocurrencies, no forex, no options, no stock pairs, no none of that. So just Bitcoin, altcoins, Ethereum, whatever else I can find that shows juicy trade setups. So for this video, I will not be using my real funds. I do not want to use my $1,000 in my real trading account because I'm going to be doing aggressive trades today in this video. I'm going to be going each day, I'm going to be going over the trade setups of the day, and I'll be listing my stop loss, my entry position, entry size, then my entry position in terms of price, then the take profits along the way. So we'll see what happens. We'll see if we get any juicy setups, but I hope it'll be fun and we'll see what can happen. So I'd also like to point out the techniques I'll be using. So number one, I'll be using a lot of levels. So that's like support and resistance levels. There's certain styles I like to use, like daily, weeklies, and monthlies, and then other styles, but I'll show you in the video my setups. The next bit is Fibonacci. So I like to use a lot of Fibonacci retracements, additional confluence with that, just to help levels and stuff. And then the third one that I'm a heavy advocate for is using volume. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna chart. Okay, so I'm gonna start with the S&P 500, then I'm gonna do Ethereum, and then I'm gonna do Bitcoin. Okay, now the reason I'm picking this order is because the SPX generally is a leading indicator for the Bitcoin price action. Generally, if the S&P 500 drops, you will also tank on Bitcoin. Then I'm also doing Ethereum because Ethereum can also sometimes lead Bitcoin in moves, I've noticed sometimes, so that's just how I'm going to do it. Okay, so and then generally the altcoins will follow Ethereum and so on and so forth, so I don't need to feel like I need to do them right now. Okay, so without further said or done, if you don't want to see this charting bit, you don't have to see it. I'll put a timestamp to when I actually place the trades. So I'm going to begin now, and I feel like you will learn some things if you want to stay here and watch this part. Okay, so let's get into it. So right now we're on the E-mini S&P 500 futures market. So this is essentially where people will do all the trading, and this is the one I look at. Now you can look at these ones, the S&P 500 index or the ES1. They're all pretty much the same. Now I'm just doing the futures one. Okay, so that's just what I want to do. Now, first of all, I would just like to go over levels. Now, regarding levels for the S&P 500, let's look at where we are. Now, for the futures, we don't have any back data, so we won't bother going there. But what do we got here? Okay, so the first level of notice I would add would be this one, because let me just quickly add the monthly level there. Now the reason I would add this one is because we had a bottom here, then we also had a bounce on that lower wick there too. Now obviously there's a lot more in-depth analysis that's going to occur, but that is the first thing. We're just going to keep it nice and simple. Alright, so that's the weekly. For the weekly, now for the daily. Okay, now daily levels, no, I don't like any daily levels. Okay, so that's my one level of importance there. So as I said, I like to do daily levels, Fibonacci, and then volume. Okay, so next let's do volume. And also I will point out to you why we rejected here, which is a very important rejection point in a second if you want to see that. But for now, let's just keep doing this. So Fibonacci levels from top to bottom. Okay, so this is the start of the impulse to the finish of the impulse. Let's put our standard Fibonacci on, which I'm sure you'll have on TradingView. Now, as you can see, so far what has happened is we've found support at the 618. Now we have front run it a little bit, but that is because we took out the low on this level here. That was a swing failure pattern of around 1% maybe. 1% swing failure pattern. Okay, now honestly this looks very bearish to me, so I would not be in a bullish sort of mindset right now on the daily chart for the S&P 500. This doesn't mean we can't take scalping trades, doesn't mean that at all, but it just means you want to keep a more bearish mindset. Even though we are technically at support, just by looking at the way the wicks are behaving here, as you can see, we had a bullish hammer candle, and then quickly the next day reversal into a somewhat of a engulfing candle. Okay, so these levels already washed out. The next one we got is the 786, which doesn't really coincide with too much until, let's just see what happens when we turn the volume on. Okay, so we'll get some volume, and I'm going to take this volume from here to the top. Now the reason I do this is because when you have the impulse up, it can tell you where the most volume resides during that impulse up. So if you have a certain volume node and the level's coming down to that node, then generally you will get some sort of reaction, but it also has to be in confluence with stuff. So as you can see, like talking about confluence, as you can see, this node here, we obviously had a tiny stop there, as you can see there, but nothing like this one. So this one was a volume node here, as you can see. Let's zoom up on that. So here, right? And then that was coinciding with the 618. So you also had that reaction there too. Now the next volume node would be this one. All right, so I'll just highlight that very quickly in a parallel channel like this. So that's your next one. And then your next one after that would be this one. So that monthly is important too. So that would be a level to get through. Okay, so these are your 3 levels of support, which we'll be talking about right now. Okay, so obviously what we could see is a washout through this level, right, like that. Now this is not going to be, this is going to be full further in the future, because I'm not going to make this video this long. It's going to probably take a few weeks to pan out. But basically what you'd be seeing is, if you don't reject off these support levels, what you could be looking for is a swing play pattern of this low to come and take out that liquidity, or even worst case scenario, come down to this low for a little bounce of some sort. Now if you don't get that, that's pretty bearish, okay? And then I'd be surprised if you don't get some sort of bounce in that spot. Now that is for the higher term time frame levels on the S&P 500. Now let's go down and drop down into the 30-minute chart, and we're going to dissect what we got going on here. Okay, so let's take a look. So first of all, I would just want to sort of look at the volume that we got going on here, see why we sort of rejected at this zone. Okay, so we took out the highs of that liquidity. So there was liquidity residing here, right? And we took it out just by a little wick there. Now a lot of people would get stopped out there because their stop losses would be just above the highs, and that's something people do as an error. Okay, so right now, to me, I would say this is looking pretty bearish. So my bias right now is definitely bearish. So we are in sort of a, I guess you could say, this sort of channel. We have deviations and so on and so forth, but I guess you could classify it as this. You know, we have deviations from this end to here, now obviously here. So we are within the range value of this channel, okay? Now, there's no reason for me to believe that we are going to be bullish here. So I'm going to keep a bearish standpoint on the S&P 500, all right? So that is the S&P 500. Obviously, there's a lot more analysis I can do, but I'm not going to go into it now. It's kind of just pointless to go into that now. Okay, so next I want to do Ethereum. Now, Ethereum can offer, let's see. Just quickly go over the levels. I'm not going to bother with monthlies. I'll just go daily. All right, so levels I'll be looking at, my friends. Here. This one. So this is in terms of like more swing trading. This would be the levels to be looking at. Right, so we are range bound within this. That's an important low to take out. So that would be a swing play pattern low, which would probably offer a nice bounce, honestly. Okay, so let's zoom in further. And let's identify where we can actually take a trade setup on this Ethereum chart. Okay. So just before we look at a setup, I just want to kind of get why we rejected here. There should be some sort of volume. So there's a little volume cluster. Let me see the point of control on this. Might be something residing. Okay. So taking out that high to the point of control, somewhat of an order block. I guess you could say this was an order block here. So I guess that could too. But I don't like to guess. Guessing is annoying. It's not very professional, is it? Okay. So in terms of trade setups for this, now the percentage moves are around 6%. So it's very nice. Okay. So we got a few lows to take out. So this one, Now the trade setup which I would be looking at, let's make this professional and nice to look at, okay? Obviously this will be a local swing flow pattern. Trade setups. I'd be very surprised if we don't get a reaction of this. So this one here, obviously it doesn't have to be exactly. I'll be looking at the order flow in the real time too at the same time as I'm looking at this. Then I'd say this one would offer something less, maybe like a little reaction like that. To the daily level, yes, I believe that one will be offering nice reaction. Okay, so something like this. This will be my trade setup, what I'm looking for, and then potentially a reversal swing fair pattern off this high to here. So that would be a much bigger sort of trade setup, which we could look at. Now obviously I'll just leave that as that, okay? So this is the first one I'll be looking at for Ethereum. So if we get in reactions here, I'll be quick to place a trade. All right, now let's go to Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is the big dog. Bitcoin's the one that we look at. Alrighty. Now let's activate the levels, my friend. Okay, so we've got a daily level up there, monthly level up here which we've been playing with, as you can see. And as you can see, Bitcoin is very much range bound, creating somewhat of a what do you call it? Hold on, let me get that triangle out. I believe we are creating this sort of formation. In the coming few days, we could be seeing this, which is going to break out, and probably, I mean, theoretically, this should break out to the upside. But generally, if a lot of people see something that looks like a pattern that they want to trade, it generally goes the opposite way. It takes out the liquidity and all that stuff. So that's something to definitely keep an eye on. All right. But in the meantime, what can we be looking at? Well, we do have a range here, and a lot of people like to say trade the range until it breaks, but that's a very silly thing to say, because it's not always as simple as that. You know what I mean? But we do have this sort of range here. Now, what you could be looking for, as the volume here is very much centralized in one center spot, as you can see, so it'd be very hard to take a volume-based trade. So for me, a volume-based trade is out of the waters here. The only things I'll be looking at is a swing failure pattern of these, either the high or the low for Bitcoin. That's the only thing I could potentially see that I'd take. So either a swing failure pattern of that high or a swing failure pattern of these lows to the daily. Okay, so that would be a more of a risky trade. I'd say short would be more safe if we get that reaction. So now when I say reaction, what I'm looking for is something like this. So come up, take out that liquidity here, get that wick that looks like a bearish wick candle, come back down, close above, and then continue down to the lower of the range. Likewise with here, take out these lows. Now obviously you can reverse here, then go back down, but you want to see that sort of reaction, fast reaction coming back up. Now if you get that, that's a trade I'm in, and that'll be it. All right, so that has been very nice for the first day of charting. Now this is very simple charting. This is not going in depth. It normally takes me hours to do a full charting session. As you can see, I have a whole wide sort of like different tools I use. As you can see, I'd go more detail about it. This is just very simple stuff I'm doing here, and I'm just gonna keep it nice and simple. So as you can see, this is what the setups are. We will check back on them in the coming hours. Catch you later. Okay, so just to make this very clear, this is setup 1 for Bitcoin. The current date is the 3rd of the 9th, 2022. Okay, this is the setup. Reasons being, just simple summary. This is your channel that we've created. We have a high here, 3 lows here. Only trade setups I would be looking at here is a swing fair pattern of either the highs or the lows. The reason is because there is no good volume trades for me to take or Fibonacci trades for me to take from what I can see. And with this kind of setup, that's all I'll be looking for on Bitcoin. Now, number 2, Ethereum. Now, Ethereum offers a wide array of different trades with a few different setups here. We have a levels, we have a swing fair pattern, we have other levels down the bottom, as you can see there too. So mainly swing fair patterns and levels for this one, and we'll see what happens with that. So those are my 2 trade setups I'll be looking at. I would prefer to take shorts in this environment because the S&P is not looking very bullish. So that is that. Okay, so it's currently 3 a.m. and right now the price action is very stagnant. So nothing's actually occurred. So, probably because it's a weekend, but this is for the BTC. Literally nothing. So the move was approximately, 1%, 0.6, not really a tradable sort of amount for me personally, especially in the sort of where we are in context. Ethereum is the same, and then the other markets are closed, the S&P and all that. So no action. So I guess we'll be waiting for when the action occurs. Okay? So I'm probably gonna head to bed and watch some YouTube or something before we get the next trade set up. Okay, so this is around day 3. There's been no price movement previous. Now today we've had a good move. So I'll just go through it. I actually wasn't there to take a trade, but I'm going to calculate if I did take the trade because I was asleep on the trade, but I have the setups here that we marked out when I did that like 3 days ago. So let me just get this first one. Alright, so as you can see, this is the plan that we had. Right, so I had it up here. So that's taking the swing flow pattern of this to either to the daily level, and worst case scenario, taking the highs here. So that was my plan for that one. And what happened, this was Ethereum. So what happened was we deviated around 1.2% above the entry price, and then we had a crash of around 9%. But when I calculate this, because I didn't take the trade, but I will calculate as if I did, just for the sake of the experiment, I'm going to take it from exactly where I marked it, because that's reasonable. So around 5.2% is what I'll be taking for profits on the $1,000. Okay, so no, that's pretty good. And then for Bitcoin, I will be taking a loss in this one because the trade setup was this, and we lost. So it will be 1.6% off that 5.2. So it'll be like a 3% move that I'll be actually recording. Okay, so that was the first one. It's just like, it's a bit slow in America because like it's a banking holiday, so the price action hasn't been too good. Anyway, I'm actually gonna redo my setups because I think the setups aren't. I think now that we've had certain price movement, I think these setups are different now. So I'm gonna rechart and see what I can find out. I didn't record this setup that happened recently, but I actually did mark it out and I didn't get hit exactly, but basically the idea was swing play pattern of this low, and obviously we've had a decent reaction of that so far. I will take it as if I'm just going to give myself a 3% move, because if I was awake, I would have taken, that's a pretty easy trade to take, you know what I mean? And I did mark it out, but obviously I just rough drew these things, so yeah. Now, that would put my total up to blank, whatever that is. And I'm actually going to redo this challenge another time because I'm actually out of time, because I'm really busy and moving to another house again to start working and to do other stuff. So yeah, I'm going to redo this challenge another time and do a better version of it. So I hope you